2007 Volkswagen Beetle Bug. Gonna do front brakes. First you need to do is break your lug nuts loose, which is a 17 millimeter. And then you need to jack it up and support it properly. Remove your tires. If they're stuck onto the hubs and you can't get them off, thread one of the wheel studs into it, just a couple threads, and then hit the inside of the rim with a mini sledge right on this surface right here. Not this surface, this surface. This is the thicker surface. This is really thin, you'll crack it, so you gotta hit it on the inside. Hit it on both sides, get the jerk action, you know, back and forth. And when it breaks loose, then you can take off your lug nut stud and then remove your tire. Then you wanna, since I'm on the driver's side, this is the side that has the sensor on it, so you wanna unplug it. So you need to get yourself a pocket screwdriver or your famous Craftsman, and you wanna stick it inside here, right there, and then you wanna angle the screwdriver down. Pull it down this way. And what you're doing is you're pushing this piece down, and it raises the inside clip, raises it up. You might want to do is first, before you do that, is squeeze it together and then tap it with the head of your screwdriver to remove the dirt. Okay, so now once you did that, you can stick your screwdriver in here like that and just pry it down with one hand and take the other hand and pull the other part apart. Okay, sometimes you'll hear it click, you know, when it releases, and then you can pull it apart. Once you push this piece down, it raises that piece inside there up off of this clip, this little notch right there. So now you can pull it apart. Okay, then you need a flathead screwdriver and remove the outer anti-rattle clip, stick it in there, pry it out of it just like that. Pry it off like that, wiggle it back and forth. Comes out, it just goes into the holes that are inside there. Then you need a 7 millimeter Allen. You need to have the little extension on it so you can clear the brake line on this right here. Goes inside here. And you want to remove caliper slide pin bolts. They look like that. Two of them. One here and one down here. Inside these boots. And once you do that, take your screwdriver again and just pry the caliper off a little bit. Okay. Okay, I got the caliper off. I put it up here. And here it is. Here's the sensor. And I'll just leave this in here so I can push the piston in with my C-clamp. And here's my outer pad. It goes in there like that. The reason why I'm doing a brake job is because the rotors are warped and it's vibrating the steering wheel and the brake pedal. Okay. So I'm going to push the piston in with the C-clamp, and then I can remove my pad and put my caliper off to the side. Okay, before you push the piston in, you want to look around at the boot to make sure that it doesn't have any tears in it or rips, or if it's leaking any fluid, being wet and collecting dirt. If it does have any of those issues, dirt or wetness, not dirt, but wetness and the cracked boot, split boot, whatever, just go ahead and replace the caliper. All right, but this one was okay, so now I pushed in the piston with my C-clamp, and there it is. Okay, you pulled out the pad, get yourself a wire brush, and brush the backside here off real good, and the base right here. Brush off your piston the best you can, and get some Sil Glide. Squirt some Sil Glide in there, about a 3/8 of an inch long amount inside there on both of them. You know, about that much. Push it in there, Then get your screwdriver and just work it around inside there. Smooth it around in there so it gets in there pretty good. Do that on both sides. And now your pistons, your calipers ready to be installed. So you can just set it aside over here for now, so it doesn't hang on the hose. You're not supposed to hang on the hose, because it possibly might damage it. Okay, next thing we need to do is remove the caliper bracket, which is right here. And I need to find out what size that is. I think it's a 17. Here's the caliper bracket bolts. These are an 18 millimeter. Surprisingly. And here's the caliper bracket. Okay. Now the surface that the pads ride on is right there. You see them? You need to clean that up. Right there, right there, right there, and right there. Clean all that up. And then what you want to do is you want to paint it. Then you got your rotor. Here's your rotor. Mine's loose. If yours is stuck on there, spray some penetrant on it. Let it soak. Sometimes they got a retainer screw. There might be a Phillips or there might be a Torx. If you get them loose and get them out, that's great. If you can't get them loose, you have to use a die grinder and X them. And then get a chisel and bust the heads out of there. Then you can come over here on the other side and remove them. Or grind them out with your die grinder like this one is, okay? But this surface here needs to be all nice and smooth, and it needs to be true. So you need to get all this rust off of there. It needs to be nice and shiny. Try not to remove any metal. And once you get it all nice and cleaned up, then you can put some anti-seize on it, and you'll be ready for your rotor. But this has got to be cleaned up. It's got to be a true surface. If it's not true, and the rotor is going to do this, and you're going to have a wobble in your brake pedal or possibly in your steering wheel, and that's not a good brake job. Here's the hub. It's nice and clean. I use a die grinder, angle die grinder with a Rolex green sandpaper disc. So that looks good. Then you put a little bit of anti-seize on there, nice light film. And then here's your caliper bracket. You need to clean them up the best you can. I used the angle die grinder in there. And this is just like the Jeeps. The pad wears a little notch in them. You can hit it with the die grinder a little bit, not a lot, just to help remove that such a hump inside there, indentation, so it's a little bit smoother operation so it doesn't hang up on it. So what you want to do is you want to paint these and let it dry, and then when it's dry you want to put some Seal Glide on the surface for the pads to ride on. Okay, here's my hub. Got some anti-seize on it. Here's my bracket. Got some paint on it. Gonna miss the spot, so I gotta repaint it again. Let it dry. Here's your rotors. Clean them up with some soap and water or some Windex. And then put your rotor on and use one of your wheel studs, bolts, to retain it. Okay, I got the rotor on there. Got my wheel stud on there with a couple washers because they bottom out. Got my bracket on there. Put some Seal Glide on my pad mounting surfaces. Got my bolts in there, caliper bolts, and I torqued them to 80 foot-pounds. Next you need to do is put your pad in here. This is the driver's side, so it has a sensor on it. And it's got the springs on there, 3 clips inside here. Get the bottom one and the side one started and get a pair of needle nose and pry that sucker over there and push it in there. And that's in there. And you can get your other new pad and put it on here. Push it on there like that. Don't push it like that because then you'll push all that Seal Glide into the rotor. And then you can put your caliper and slide it on there. And then you can get your slide pins, clean them up, wipe them down with some Seal Glide, and stick them in there and torque them to 18 foot-pounds. Remember these were the 7mm? Make sure you put the caliper on with your connector up. And have your slide pin bolts ready. When you push it on there, push them in there, because this caliper won't stay there by itself, so you got to have your pins ready. So hold the caliper on, push your slide pins in, and push them until you feel them go into the screw holes, okay, the bolt holes, and then snug them up and then tighten them to 18 foot-pounds. And then this, you put this one, stick it inside the bracket, and connect your connector together. This section goes into the bracket, this one does. Okay, now that you got the caliper on, the slide pins torqued to 18, caliper bolts done to 80, got your sensor plugged in and inside the bracket properly. And then next you need to do is remove your wheel stud, and then now you need to put your anti-rattle clip back in there. So what I do is I stick it on here like that, and then I'll push this one over here like that, and I'll pry this one over as I push this one in. I can push this one in a little bit and pry it over with a screwdriver. What I did is I held my finger on here and I pried this end over with my screwdriver, got it on there, and I tapped them in with the butt of my screwdriver. Like this. Okay. And that completes the brake job. The next you need to do is put your tires on, snug up your lug nuts, tighten them up in a star pattern, and then what you want to do is lower it down to the ground and torque them to 90 foot-pounds. And then once it's on the ground, you go inside the car, start it up, push the brake pedal to the floor a couple times, make sure you get a good firm pedal, and then after that shut it off, go underneath the hood, wipe off your master cylinder cap, and top off the fluid as needed, and make sure you put the right dot type fluid in it. Should say on top of the cap. Most of them are .3, but sometimes they use .4. And that completes it. You do the other side exactly the same way. Only thing is it doesn't have the sensor, so it's a little bit quicker. And that's it. If I helped you out with this video doing your brakes, that's awesome. Hopefully you can help me out by subscribing. I thank you.